Hold on, stop. Welcome back to the Shit Show 2.0.
Okay, Boomer.
Damn millennials. Wow.
Did not know that. Even flirters who are obviously mentally ill. You want to be my wife?
Oh, this is gonna go downhill real quick.
What is going on? And welcome to Take on the World with
Johnny E. Jump ahead.
Jonas Interruptus and Mike D. We should be in November now when this airs. When this one airs.
Yeah, you're right.
Because we did a series of horror movie backstories.
Horror flicks.
We just recorded one, and it was Candyman, it's a short one.
The Candyman can.
So go back and watch that, listen to that. We're drinking extremely bitter beer here.
Yeah, enough with the bitterness, people. Come on. I mean, this one's not too bad.
It's not horrible, it's a weird taste. This is Bucking Birch, Long Yard Brewing.
Cane style ale.
I didn't know what a cane style ale was, so I gave it a try because it was on the discount rack. So we're not actually doing a review of this one.
Oh, I get it.
What?
Brewed in Kane, Pennsylvania.
Oh, so you know what? I'm going to tell you what this is. I'm going to tell you exactly what this is. This is what they call picnic beer.
Okay.
Where if you're at a picnic, there's usually a keg of beer and a keg of Birch beer in this area. And you get half a cup of beer, half a cup of Birch beer.
Really?
And it's called
mix them?
It's called a picnic beer.
I've never known this.
Well, it's a skook thing, I think.
We need to try this.
I've tried it. I actually, depending on what the beer base is, it's not bad. I usually do it 3/4 to a quarter.
Mm-hmm.
But when we were kids, we did it because we were hiding the fact that we had beer.
Right.
And
they knew.
They knew. Oh, I'm sure they did. Like, looking back, yeah. Because I'm always watching the kids at the keg.
It's like fucking Miller Lite, though. You can probably drink a whole keg to yourself and be fine. I tell you,
this is actually kind of growing on me.
That story, I was probably, I don't know, 16 or 17. And my mom had a party or something, and she left a case of, I don't know, I think it was a case. Might have been a keg. I don't know, whatever. It was Coors Light. And
it's probably a party ball.
And I think it was a case, and I drank the entire case. And I did get drunk, but I proceeded to go outside and mow the grass.
Drunk?
Yeah, and I set the lawnmower on fire by accident. I tried to dump the gas in it, and I missed, and it filled up in like that little, that groove in the bottom there, and I was like, and I started it up, and whoosh.
I think if you had been my kid, I would have beat you a lot.
Probably.
All the stories you tell me, dude, I would have kicked your ass.
Yeah, I was a fucking. I still am. I haven't changed. I'm a little more wise. But
okay.
I just do more adult stupid shit. Anyways.
So what do you got for a topic, bro?
I have something I think a lot of people will be interested in. I don't know what made me think of this.
And I want to preface this by saying that Johnny did all the research for this one.
Yeah.
I pulled a Johnny this week and did not research it.
2 days worth of research. Well, 2 Johnny days worth of research. And now I'm not going to go into super, super detail because we don't have the funding for that, and I don't have it's just, there's so many little nooks and crannies that you could touch on and go into, but I'm just going to give you the background of these stories, and those stories are going to be about slave rebellions pertaining to specifically the United States of America. So I was interested. This fucking world's on fire right now. There's so many things fucked up with this world. A lot of racial tensions going on, and I watched a bit of this movie the other day. It was called Dinner with Andre, old like '70s movie, and it's kind of like a Orwellian, 1982 kind of thing. And the guy's talking about how I forgot the fucking thing, and I wrote it down, but it's really interesting. And he says, have you ever noticed the amount of people that say they want to leave New York City but never do? The guy's like, yeah. And it basically goes on that they have figured out that why enslave these people when we can just have them build the prison themselves, be proud of it, and never want to leave. Boom, and it's in a nutshell, basically.
Okay.
And it's like, holy shit. Like, when you think about it, it's like, wow, like, is that true? Like, but anyways, I wish I had the fucking quote.
Well, parts of our old jail were built by inmates.
Right, yeah. But they're saying, like, they were relating as, like, New York City in its entirety is a prison.
Okay.
Because
Escape from New York.
No.
Oh.
But, so I really wish I had the fucking quote here, but I forgot it. So if you want the full thing, just go on YouTube, check out Dinner with Andre. And the guy from Inconceivable, that's one of the guys in it. He's at the table with Andre, or he might even be Andre, I'm not sure. But so then I got to thinking, I'm like, well, as fucked up as the slave shit was, and we wish it never fucking happened. It did. We have to deal with it. And, it's something you don't ever want to forget. But then I was thinking, you don't ever hear of, like, were there ever any rebellions? Did they say, you know what? Fuck you, white motherfuckers. I've had enough of this shit. And, rise up and kill a couple folks. And
now, I'm going to jump in, and it's Mike Jump Ahead, and you can correct me through your research, but a video that I watched showed only one slave rebellion on American soil was successful. And this was a video done, and he was talking about slave rebellions, and not just ones in the United States, but he talked about the Amistad,
okay.
which was open water. And you ever see the movie?
No.
Le Amistad?
No.
Dude, if you get a chance, take a time and watch that movie. It was slaves on a ship being brought here, over through the ship.
Okay.
And they were tried in, I think it was a New York court, for mutiny.
On the ship.
On the ship. And they eventually won and got sent back to where they were stolen from in Africa.
No shit.
Yeah.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Le Amistad.
And that was colonial, like Americans?
It might be pre-America. It might be before America.
The French, British. I think the French were the originals, then the British, and then us.
Well, the Amistad, I guess, is a French ship. Le Amistad.
Yes, I think that sounds French. So let me read this little. The guy starts it off with saying this, and I wish I could do it in his voice, but this really makes it feel somber and
19th century. Sorry, jumping.
Okay, no problem.
So it was 1839.
So yeah, they were.
So was it La Amistad?
On their way to colonial America, most likely.
It was a Spaniard ship.
So it says, robbing us of our history, culture, language, and identity, the ripping apart of family units and royal bloodlines, the absolute and complete torment of our fathers and mothers before us. And that was him referring to the Middle Passage, which was the journey from Africa to America and the conditions in which the slaves lived. Now, they weren't on. They were crammed in there, shackled down, laying on their backs.
Yeah, they laid them on their backs so they could get more slaves on the ship.
Yeah, and you were just lined up shoulder to shoulder all the way around the perimeter of the ship. And stacked.
Yes.
So, I'm sure a lot of them died on the way over.
Yeah. And if they died on the ship on the way over, they just threw them overboard.
Yeah.
It was like just
terrible.
Throwing cargo. I mean, it's disgusting. I don't like thinking about shit like this, but I think when you do a topic like this, it makes people think, hey,
let's not repeat history.
Yeah.
Let's not forget it. And
I'm a strong believer in looking at history so you don't repeat the mistakes of the past.
Because we all know history is bound to repeat itself. And damn it. What was I going to say? Anyways.
Go ahead, I need a second.
Okay. So, rebellion, I guess in its most pure form, is, quote, against tyranny and oppression. Apparently there have been countless rebellions, but some are lost due to poor record keeping. There was one, and I don't know much on it. It was called Evil Landing, and I guess this took place in Africa somewhere. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that. Some of the slaves headed to the mountains. Some took up arms, and some decided to commit suicide. So they rather drown in a creek than to submit to slavery. Which, that's a pretty harsh reality. But if you look at like World War II, how they had, in Saipan, how the people were jumping off the cliffs because they didn't want to be enslaved by the Americans. And
I have no fear, I'm back.
Yay! A little fucked up on this beginning part. It'll get a little bit better. Trust me. I didn't know how to structure this first part here, so I'm just kind of like quoting some things and.
Carry on, you're doing good.
I really don't know. There's not a whole lot on like who these quotes came from.
Oh shit!
Fucked up.
Done fucked up, AA Ron.
Here's a really good quote, and this is from the Encyclopedia of African History and Culture. And it says, quote, to repress and control slave rebellion, especially in those places such as South Carolina and the Caribbean islands, where persons of slavery outnumbered the free sometimes 10 to 1. Africans were forbidden to meet in groups or to learn to read, and they lived under constant scrutiny of their overseers. Families were often separated, further increasing their isolation from one another and from white society.
So, I'm just going to interject here. So, everybody knows we've been to Saipan. Everybody doesn't know I went on a mission trip to St. Croix. And it was a Dutch island at one point. And we're working on these houses. My wife went along. Our uncle went along. And you would go to these houses, and like the people who own the house would tell you, oh, these used to be slave quarters.
Mm-hmm.
So we're down there, and I'm thinking there's going to be a lot of agriculture there because they got to kind of fend for themselves. I expected to see, because Captain Morgan is made down there.
Okay.
And what was the other rum that's made down there?
Kuzan.
Okay. So Kuzan rum is made down there, and you could tour both of those places. I expected to see like sugarcane fields everywhere, but you don't see them. And I was talking to the one lady. Now, the one lady was from there, moved to New York, lived in New York for many years, went back. Nice lady. Her granddaughter was cool. Like the whole family was cool. She was telling us that like nobody wants to get into agriculture because it brings up and too many recent hard feelings of slavery, and like there's people still on the island that remember it. And
yeah, man, it's kind of a big deal. It was, just rampant.
So when the Dutch were kicked off the island, like there was a lot of harsh feelings towards the Dutch. The last house we worked on was an old Dutch lady, and she was really nice. had nothing to do with slavery. But even she said that she sometimes feels the prejudice against the Dutch because of what had happened in the past there. Understandably, but
well, sure. Well, take a look at just white people in general. A lot of people that were affected, or still to this day affected by slavery. Oh, you fucking white privilege, da 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 da, and I don't really want to get into this because I feel like it's a loaded question, but look at my family did not come over to the States until 1910. That was when my great fucking grandfather looked just like me, but less fat. And, they came from Europe and, they did. But I could see, would I be a little pissed off that everywhere you go, everything's segregated or you just look down upon for being a different color.
But here's my simple take without getting political because we don't do politics. I will hold people accountable for their actions. I do not hold you accountable for your father's actions, your grandfather's actions. You are not your grandfather, or I'm not saying you in general, but
right. What I guess I'm trying to say is a lot of people feel that we reap the benefits of what they did. I know it's a loaded question. I don't really want to stay too long on this because I feel like I don't know what the right answer is, and I'm just going to move along.
The right answer is judge people for them, not for their past.
So I literally, what I did, I just fucking plagiarized this guy's whole entire fucking video, and I don't care, whatever. If this just gets out to more people, the more the merrier, because I think we should know about, I didn't learn any of this stuff in high school. I didn't learn any of this shit in college. They don't teach you this stuff, And it's just kind of forgotten about, that never happened.
Well, yeah, it's an ugly thing to look at, so people try to put it in the back of the cupboard so they don't have to deal with it.
So, well, that's why I specifically wanted to focus on, Uprising. Because I'm man, there's no fucking way. There had to be an Uprising. As if you had a group of people and we're just sick and tired of this shit, I'm gonna fucking get that log over there. I'm gonna bust it upside your fucking head and burn your house down. Fuck you. I don't care if I die or whatever happens.
Right.
I'm not living this lifestyle anymore. Fuck you. But I think you could attest. I could see you just rising up and be like, I'm not gonna take it no more.
Oh.
I'm done.
I'd be the first one killed.
Go fucking pick your own cotton, asshole. And so he kind of goes in numbers here. So I think you're gonna like this number 2 because this is something I didn't fucking even realize that even happened. So we'll start with number 10. It was the first slave rebellion in the U.S. So the slave rebellion at San Miguel de Guadalupe in 1526. In 1526, the settlement San Miguel de Guadalupe was founded by a Spanish explorer, Lucas Vasquez. It was the first European settlement in what would become the continental United States.
Did they have tamales?
Oh, God, I fucking love tamales. You know what? You might be able to enslave me with some tamales. You kept feeding me. No, sure, I can do it. Like a goddamn goldfish. You think I'm gonna eat this shit one more time? Ooh, tamales. So it was first. This was San Miguel de Guadalupe was the first European settlement in what would become the continental United States.
Where was it?
Easy there, Michael. Jump ahead.
I'm sorry.
Though it is unsure where exactly the settlement was, it is thought to be either in Georgia or Jamestown, Virginia.
Okay.
The Africans brought there, who apparently, I guess he said they were experienced slaves. So they had been slaves for a while. They're not just fresh off the boat. So again, they're sick of this shit. So
are you saying there was slavery someplace other than the United States?
Of course.
Oh, I didn't. You would never know that if you listen to the media.
Right. Yeah. So the Africans brought there They refused to be enslaved. So Vasquez brought approximately 100 enslaved from Spain. They rebelled, with many escaping to many of the native population, and this is considered to be the first non-native settlers in the population. So I guess they just said fuck it and ran away. So it doesn't say if it was violent. Maybe it was. I'm sure a couple of people got hurt or killed. But then they said they just assimilated into the native population and they were taken in. Like, okay, cool. Well, and then apparently, I guess the Native Americans on the East Coast were less violent than West Coast,
Right.
or the Middle East. I'm trying to say, like the Lenape Indians and all around this area were more or less.
They weren't more as warlike.
Yeah, I guess that was what I'm trying to say. Don't get me wrong. I mean, they would go to war and fight, but
not as aggressive.
Yeah, like not raiding tribes and just killing motherfuckers because they want to. So the next one is, I think you're gonna like this one, Mikey. The 1842 slave revolt in the Cherokee Nation. So, unbeknownst to me, now natives purchased, enslaved, and mistreated Africans. The Cherokee were one of the biggest perpetrators of this. An rebellion took place in Oklahoma on Indian Cherokee territory and was the largest group of escapees that occurred amongst the Cherokee. Did you know that?
I knew that they enslaved, like, I don't know if that's what they called it, but they enslaved members of other tribes. I did not know that they had African slaves.
No, and they traded, and so their fucking hands are in this too. And on November 15th, 1842, a group of African slaves owned by the Cherokee escaped and tried to reach Mexico, where slavery had been abolished in 1836.
Wow, I didn't know that either.
Along the way, they were joined by 15 other slaves that were escaping from it just says the creek in Indian Territory. So they must have been on the same ocean and met up together. And they raided stores for food, ammo, guns, horses, mules. And the Cherokee, along with the Choctaw Indians, massed a small little army and eventually caught up with them. All the slave escapees were rounded up and brought back successfully. Some were executed for the insurrection. The Cherokee Rebellion was, quote, the most spectacular act of rebellion against the Cherokee Nation. Then we have the most famous U.S. slave rebellion, and that was Nat Turner.
Yeah, in that video I watched, he talked about that.
Nat Turner's Rebellion, or AKA the Southampton Insurrection.
Yeah.
So, little young Nat Turner said he was destined to show the world the magnificence of the human spirit. Driven by prophetic visions and a host of followers, Turner and about 70 armed enslaved men and free blacks set off to kill the white neighbors who enslaved them. In the early morning, they killed Turner's master, wife, and children with axes. By the end of the next day, the enslaved army attacked about 15 homes and killed around 55 to 60 whiteys. As they moved toward Turner's promised land, quote unquote, which he idealized through his religious vigor, the rebellion was famously put down, and Turner was eventually captured and killed. The way in which he used the religion of his enslavers to turn against them was nothing short of spectacular.
So it was put down at Belmont Plantation on August 23rd, 1831. And it says 51 of those who were killed were white. 55 to 65, just like you said, people were killed.
Yeah.
So I guess they killed other slaves who were standing up for their masters? Or why would you do that?
No, wait, what?
It says 55 to 65 people were killed. 51 were white. So if there were non-whites that were killed, there would have been other black slaves who stood up for their masters or protected their master's home.
Maybe. Yeah. Here's another one. It's called the Stono Rebellion. Not the Stoner. Stono.
No.
The largest slave rebellion in the 13 colonies. Sunday, September 9th, 1739. About 20 slaves, under leadership of a man named Jemmy, provided his enslavers with a painful lesson on the African desire for freedom and liberty. The very founding precepts of American identity. It is believed that many of the enslaved Africans were warriors from Angola and were highly trained in warfare. They gathered at the Stono River, executing the white store owners and putting their heads on the storefront steps for all to see.
South Carolina.
Okay. So these guys weren't fucking around.
No.
And they moved on, burning houses and killing their owners, marching through the colonies towards St. Augustine, Florida, where under Spanish law, it would be free. Not all blacks joined the rebellion. Some hid their white masters. As they marched toward Florida, they reportedly shouted the word Lukongo, meaning liberty, in their native Angolan language. Although some did make it to Florida, most were killed by colonist troops. And, I mean, you don't really see any kind of future in this. It's just pretty much, fuck you, we're going to kill you, and then they get killed. Which, I mean, what would you rather do?
I'd rather fight than submit.
Fight than submit, yeah. Left tamales in it for me. The big cock. Here we go. Now, I think these ones start getting further and further away from being actually on American soil. So, but this one is pretty interesting. I guess these guys were slated to come to the States, but anyways. The First Maroon War, Jamaica. Conflict between the Jamaican Maroons and the colonial British authorities started around 1728 and continued until peace treaties of 1739 and 1740. Excuse me. One of the first successful slave rebellions in the Caribbean islands. In 1655.
Okay, the video that I watched, the guy talked about this.
Yeah, this one's interesting to me.
It is because they in Jamaica, they outnumbered their masters like 10 or 15 to 1.
Yeah. Like
they had a good chance of succeeding, and they did.
Yes, they did. Absolutely did. So, in 1655, the Brits defeated the Spanish colonists and took control of most of the island. After the Spanish fled, Africans escaped to the mountains and created Maroon communities. The British could not get a stronghold on the Maroon communities. They were constantly halted by Maroon ambitions. The Brits decided they cannot defeat the Maroons, so they came to an agreement with them. And one of the greatest leaders in the Maroon community is a woman they called Queen Nanny. She was born of the Shanti people and escaped slavery, starting a Maroon community in the mountains. Some call her the Obia woman. Obia largely deriving from traditional African spiritual beliefs from Ghana. Following some armed confrontations with the British, Queen Nanny and her Maroons were able to maintain their sovereignty. Because of this history, she is a national hero of Jamaica, and being descendant of a Maroon is looked upon as high honor with Jamaican culture. I wish I would have known that when I went there. I'd like to know the history of a culture for the country.
Well, that's what's interesting about the mission trips. Like when we went to St. Croix, some of the people there were very open about talking I like to hear their story. I like to hear their personal story. The reason why we're there is we're building homes that were devastated by a hurricane. Like when we went to Saipan, we were rebuilding homes that were devastated by typhoons. And from talking to Eric, he told his story on how terrifying it was for him and for the kids. And I still keep in contact with him now. We were in St. Croix. They were very open about telling the stories, and they're not afraid of the history. They just don't want any part of it. But that highlighted part there says, Nanny and her people now reside with her and her heirs, a certain parcel of land containing hundreds of acres in the parish of Portland.
Is that in the States?
No. It's Portland, Jamaica.
Okay. So again, not necessarily a U.S. rebellion, but I would figure that they were probably going to be sent here.
Well, U.S. and Caribbean, you did say that up front.
Yeah. So here's probably my, I don't even say favorite one, but most interesting one to me. Only because I think there was like a lot more information on this one. But this was the 1811 slave revolt of New Orleans, aka the German Coast Uprising.
He talked about this one in his video.
Yeah. Apparently, this one again is the largest slave revolt. I think they're all the largest slave revolt. So, anyways, it doesn't matter about size, about the motion in the ocean, baby.
1811.
Yeah. This one was particularly very brutal. And here I have some quotes here. I think there's I watched a video where I guess they do a march, a reenactment march every year on this.
Okay.
And it's really cool. I would love to go down there and see this. I don't know if I could be a part of it, but that was one of my, I don't know, lifelong dreams or whatever. Well, I always wanted to be a reenactor. I just thought it's cool.
Yeah, you're not going to fit in the uniform.
I could be like a cook or something, So, some lady quoted, "The horses trot to the beat of revolution." And I guess this is another quote from, the hell is that?
There's my phone ringing.
Oh.
I was going to answer it the way I answer spam calls.
Oh.
Did you ever hear me answer a spam call?
No.
I can answer, Pennsylvania State Police Fraud Division, Trooper Rossai speaking.
That's good.
Backstory. When I was in school, there used to be a state trooper who'd come and do a safety thing every year. And it was Trooper Rossai.
Okay.
And Trooper Rossai came to our school every day. They even had a song when he came in that all the students would sing. Here comes Trooper Rossai. Here comes Trooper Rossai. And everybody would be chanting this when he walked out on stage. It was like when I was when the school, I don't know what they call them, psychologist. They're
a rapist.
Whatever. She would come. She always did a program for the school, and she had a little dolphin puppet, and it was Duso. And you'd have to sing, "Hey, Duso, come on out. Hey, Duso."
No, Duso, I don't want to suck it. Not again. Duso,
why do you gotta make fucking poor Duso? Poor Duso.
That was more like poor Mike.
I'm gonna look it up. There it is. Duso the dolphin. There he is.
Look at the wiener on that thing.
There, hey, Duso, come on out.
Oh my God, there's something underlying there. Next thing you know, you're fucking therapist is whipping his wiener out.
Stop!
Yeah, this is Dusso's little best friend. Ah! Anyways, January 1811. Rose, an active rebellion. Where was this, by the way? New Orleans.
New Orleans.
Rose, an active rebellion against... What the fuck? This is like your notes here, buddy.
You took them, not me.
Oh, okay. Oh, all right.
This is the 1811?
Yeah. Yep. So, in January 1811, rose an active rebellion against their masters. 500 slaves just up the coast from New Orleans, fertile grounds. This was a highly organized, premeditated challenge to the slave owner class. Its leaders had a clear objective: to capture the city of New Orleans and establish a free black republic on the banks of the Mississippi. Yeah, that'd be fucking awesome if they fucking did that. So, Charles DeLong, who reported to Manuel Andre, a sadistic fuck, slave driver on the Woodland Plantation. So Charles DeLong, he's under the command of Manuel Andre. I think he's a Spanish dickhead. And so Charles DeLong, he was a slave driver on the Woodland Plantation, wielded out punishments, made schedules, but it was all an act. DeLong despised the slave owner class. In the autumn months, two others got to know the real Charles DeLong, and their names were Cook and Command. So DeLong told them about how the slaves of Haiti had risen up 20 years ago and slaughtered their masters and created an independent black state. These three men set out about carefully fermenting rebellion. On January 8th, Governor Claiborne sent most of his troops to Baton Rouge to secure the American annexation of Spanish West Florida. So we remember Spanish West Florida was not, if they got there, they would be free.
Right.
I guess they abolished slavery. And New Orleans was particularly defenseless. So he sent all his troops down for this annexation and left New Orleans undefended. And that's when they decided to, all right, now we're going to strike. DeLong tries to kill Andre, wounding him severely. Andre flees across the river to another master's house, Charles Paris. Andre tells him his slaves are revolting. Andre's son was hacked to death. So actually, I didn't write this down, but what had happened was, I guess, as they were coming up to Andre's house, Cook went around the back and ambushed him. I think this is the one. I hope I'm I don't want to get too ahead here. This might have been, yeah, I think this was it. Cook went around the back of the house, came in, and came out on the, no, this isn't it.
Ugh, Jesus.
I'm, motherfuck, hold on.
You're a motherfucker?
I apologize. You might have to pause this and edit this shit out.
No, I'm not pausing nothing. Your notes.
Ah, here it is. Okay, so
is this
as
it?
Andre fled,
Is this it?
We're back online.
Okay.
I think it doesn't say how he wounded him. I think maybe he fucking lopped his arm off or something. So Andre flees across the river to another master's house, Charles Paris. Andre tells him the slaves are revolting, and Andre's son was hacked to death at the house. So his fucking douchebag leaves his family behind to get slaughtered. Quote, on to New Orleans, quote, freedom or death, were the cries as they marched down the levee. About 500 strong, they grew within a day. Scared, a lot of white planters fled, but not every plantation owner took the threat seriously. Here's the one I was getting ahead of myself. Side note, Francois Trepanier, a notorious slave owner, didn't take the threat seriously, though told by his slaves that he should hide. You might want to hide, bruh.
Bruh.
Just saying.
But you might get in the cellar.
He said, defiant, he sat out on his front porch with his shotgun. He saw the posse go by his house, and he starts firing at him. But he's got a shotgun, so he didn't hit anything. And the posse ambushed him. This is when Cook went around the back of the house, goes in the back door, comes out on the front porch, and buries his fucking hatchet in the dude's head and kills him. And he also kills his son. In the early morning, the silence was shattered by horsemen thundering through the Vauquerie. I don't know what that means. I think it's like an area down there, but it sounds cool. Vauquerie.
I'm sure you're not pronouncing that right.
The Vauquerie.
I'm pretty sure you're not pronouncing that right.
No, it's spelled right. Vauquerie. Shouting the news, refugees poured into the city. Telling this... Oh, God, I can't read for shit.
Not just me today.
Telling the stories of murder and mayhem. The white population began to panic. Governor Claiborne immediately issued a curfew of 6 p.m. for black people in the city. Then he ordered all the bars in the city and suburbs to be closed. Now,
why is that always the first thing? They close the bars.
Well, here's what I find interesting. The guy says, then he did the unthinkable. He closed all the bars in town. But if you think about it, like, when you get a little liquor up in you, woo-woo! You know what I'm saying?
I could beat his ass.
Little boot, scoot, boot. So, again, Claiborne is the governor who sent all the troops down to Florida. And now he's backpedaling. He's trying to close everything. Oh, fuck, they're all revolting. Son of a bitch.
So what I got on this one is it was 2 days.
Yeah, it wasn't long.
It was 2 days.
Yeah.
They marched 20 miles. They burned 5 plantations. 3 were burnt completely to the ground. And several slaughterhouses. And they were burning crops.
Yeah. Governor Claiborne scraped together 30 regulars and 2 companies of volunteer militia, a force of about 100 men, against a slave army 5 times their number. Under the command of General Wade Hampton, the Americans marched along the Mississippi. Along the way, they picked up fleeing planters. What does that mean? Fleeing, like, I guess, crop owners? A.K.A. masters. Oh, okay. I answered my own question. So they're amassing people. People are going, hey, what do you do? Get in my pitford, my shotgun.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm. So after dark, they met at the Keener and Henderson Plantation, the spot where the airport stands today. Excuse me. Now this is DeLong's army. They're I lied. I digress. I'm sorry. I guess the slave owners and Claymore's army amassed at the Henderson Plantation, spot where the airport stands today. Hampton laid an ambush and attacked, but the slave army had retrieved hours earlier, led by DeLong. Now, they said that this was an old tactic when I guess from either the French or Haitians, when they knew they were going to be attacked, they would just flee until they had a better fighting, better odds were against or were for them. Kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
Let's not stand here and just get slaughtered. So Manuel Andre, remember this guy that got severely wounded? His kid got killed, ran across the river.
Yep.
And his militia crossed the Mississippi and stumbled upon the rear of the DeLong's army. Within minutes, the slaves were out of ammo and beaten back by Andre and eventually taken out by Hampton and Andre. They only took 25 prisoners. 500. Jesus. And more than 500. And amongst these prisoners were Cook and Kumana, which were number 2 and 3 along next to DeLong. So they were the 3 top heads in this whole deal. After 2 days in the swamps, for the revenge of the killing of his son Andre. He had DeLong's arms cut off, shot him, and he threw him in a fire. When Cook was asked if he killed Francois Trepanier with an axe, he freely and proudly admitted to the murder. Yeah, motherfucker, I did it. I'll bury that hatch right now, white bitch's head. Not do it again. To make an example, 100 plus slaves were decapitated and their heads stuck on pikes for 40 miles from the Woodland Plantation to the Place d'Armes in the French Quarter, today known as Jackson Square. That's fucked up. I mean, you don't think of shit like that happening in the States. That's like some medieval fucking crap right there.
Yeah, I know. The heads on the spikes.
Yeah.
That's some Vlad the Impaler shit.
I mean, it's just fucking sickening how violent and just disgusting human nature can be. You know?
Very true.
And this is all I got. There's more. I wanted to talk about Free State of Jones. That was the movie we recommended to my dad.
Yeah,
I can't remember.
Yeah.
And apparently that has some truth to it. That's a really good fucking movie.
I like that movie.
It was. And you know more about that. Why don't you touch on that movie?
If anybody hasn't seen it, Free State of Jones, Matthew McConaughey played a great part. He was it was after slavery was abolished. And what they were doing was, and I guess the blacks had been given a right to vote. And what they would do is when they came in to vote, they would intimidate them. So they would just stay away from the polls. They wouldn't vote. But because they all knew if all the former slaves came out and voted in mass, that their people wouldn't win. The Democrats wouldn't win. And so this white guy who had a farm, and everybody on the farm, it was like I don't know, like a commune almost, where everybody on the farm, you worked the land, you reaped what you worked. Whether you were black, white, it didn't matter.
And that was the thing, because it showed like the Confederate troops coming in, and they would just take all your food, and that's what they were using to supply their guys. And so you have a family of 4, and guess what? They just took your fucking year's crops. And they were taking all kinds of shit, too.
Well, the story was based in the 50s, and what it was a guy went to court to get a marriage license. And because his ancestry was, he had black ancestry, but he was a white guy. He couldn't marry in whatever state it was in because it was a mixed marriage, and it was illegal. So they took him to court. And they were charging him with the crime of being a black man trying to marry a white woman.
Yeah.
And the court case flashes back in history to Matthew McConaughey's time. And basically Matthew McConaughey had, his second wife was a former black slave. Mm-hmm. And they had a child, and the child looked white. But that was this guy's ancestor. Eventually, they didn't incarcerate him, the guy, but they had to go to another state to get married. Right. And their marriage wasn't recognized in whatever state they were in. And I wish I could remember what state it was, because what a bunch of backward fucks.
Yeah.
In more modern times, to, I don't know, that kind of hatred and racism. I got no time or place for it.
Ain't nobody got time for that. But yeah, the movie is basically, he was fighting for the Confederates in the Civil War. I guess his son gets shot. He tries to save him, and they're not having any of that. Take him to the tent. They're like, officers only. So he lays him down in the tree. Kid dies. He's sick and tired of the fucking war. He runs away. He becomes a AWOL. A runaway. What did they call him?
AWOL. Deserter.
Deserter. Yes, thank you. And then, as he's at his home with his wife and all his neighbors, these Confederates keep coming in, stealing their shit. So he stands up against them. Um, he has like a mock army, not army, but like they took the kids and they were sticking broom poles out the window. It made it look like there was like 10 or 15 armed people, and they took their shit back from the
I think they end up burning that farm down.
Yes.
He retreats to the woods.
He retreats to the woods, and he starts an armed insurrection with other black slaves in the swamps of, I'm going to assume it's a Mississippi, Alabama, somewhere down there.
Alabama, Louisiana.
Louisiana. And they all take up arms, and they start fighting back and killing the Confederate soldiers. And it's definitely worth a watch. It's a great movie. What was his name?
Newton Knight.
Newton Knight, yeah. And his second wife, Rachel. And then,
Mississippi.
Mississippi, okay. So he goes on to, and, from what we just read, you can pretty much guess what the outcome of that insurrection was. Didn't bode well for
it's
the rebels, or the...
It says Knight launched an uprising that led Jones County, Mississippi, to secede from the Confederacy, creating the Free State of Jones.
But that's not the one thing that pisses me off. Here's a guy who just wants to be left alone and wants to be able to just
not be a bigot,
till your land, and what's yours is yours. What you put in the ground, that's what you get. Nobody else. That's your hard work. That's your money. And they fucking can't be left alone. There's always some fucking asshole.
So,
I mean, now that I got into this, I want to. I feel like I kind of did this a little bit injustice. Might have to do a second part to this. We find more information, but it's just so. I kind of hastily put this together, and but there's a lot of good information in here.
Yeah, and I don't know. I don't want to say heartwarming to see. It's good to see that there were people who stepped up and didn't accept a shitty hand that was dealt to them of people treating them subhuman.
Yeah.
Nobody should be treated like that. I don't care who you are, where you're from, what your religious beliefs are, what your political beliefs are. Nobody deserves to be treated the way people have been treated. It's just not right. There's not a fiber in my being that says there's anything good about that, anything right about that. If that's how you treat people, you're a fucking piece of shit. Don't listen to our show. Because I got no time for you.
Yeah. Second that.
But that's a far cry from the culture we have today where everybody's offended by everything. These people had right to be offended because they were treated poorly, inhumanely. The people who are offended today, well, you said the wrong word to them. You said manhole instead of sewer hole cover. And that, eat a dick. If the sole hurt in your life is someone saying manhole or breastfeeding, then
or nipple.
Yeah, or nipple. We're not allowed to say nipple anymore.
That's a plumbing term, by the way.
A threaded pipe end.
Gas cock. Can't say gas cock.
So, anyway, we briefly touched on slavery uprisings, slave rebellions.
Yeah, I like this. Now you were
going. You got to see La Amistad.
Yeah, I'll definitely give that a check. I don't know. What was it? I don't know if it was another movie. I could see the cover of it. It was I guess he would have been a runaway slave, and it was a recent movie in the past couple of
The
years.
guy in New York, or he went up to New England. What was that? I watched that movie.
I don't know if that really necessarily deals with.
He was a freed slave, and he was making his way north, and someone recaptured him and made him a slave again.
Well, here's the other fucked up thing that I didn't really even think about is that once the slaves were freed, they still didn't have anywhere to go. It's like, it's like, okay, well, and they said all their protection was gone because they valued a slave as a piece of property. I spent such X amount of dollars on this man, woman, child. That's my property. You can't touch him. So they said a lot of that, like they were just getting killed because they had no protection from their owners. So a double
12 years a slave.
Yeah,
that was the name of the movie.
One, yeah. So that's like a double fucking whammy. Okay, you get released from your fucking master.
No, you know what it was? He lived up north.
This Cold Mountain? No.
12 years a slave. He lived up north. He traveled someplace, was captured and enslaved for 12 years, and then escaped and got back, I think, up north. I think.
I was getting back to the Free State of Jones. The one scene that really hits home for me, it's like sad, very, really sad, is what was his name?
There were Newton
Knight.
Moses.
Yes, his pretty much his best friend Moses. He's going out and he's getting a registry, and he's writing down, all the people who live in that town
for voting. Oh yeah.
And he's walking down the road, and these clan of white guys come after him, and they don't show it, but what they show is Newton Knight walking down the road. Oh no, he went to his house, and he's like, "Where's Moses?" And his wife's like, "Oh no, I haven't seen him for a while." And he's like, "Fuck, I know something's up." And he finds him, and all you see is his feet dangling from a tree. His pants are down around his ankles, and there's blood all over his pants. So they call that masticating. Is that what that is, or
mutilating?
They cut his stuff off. And
now I'm afraid you're afraid to say junk.
Yeah. I was trying to be more serious.
Duso was just face fucking you, and now all of a sudden.
But then, it's just a powerful fucking scene, and Matthew McConaughey grabs his legs and
yelling for help, and
crying, snot bubbles coming out and shit. And it's just like, that's gut wrenching to me. It's.
And all he was trying to do was give people a voice.
Yeah, he was killed for no fucking.
He wasn't being violent. He wasn't doing anything other than giving people a voice. It's worth the movie's worth. 12 Years a Slave is worth a watch too.
Did you see it?
I've seen it, yes.
Okay, I didn't see it.
Yes, I watched it.
I know when it first came out, it was like, whoa, this is, highly anticipated. But I would also like to see I think it's in D.C., it's not a museum, but it's some big, I don't know, maybe a museum. We were talking about this on another episode, and there's a big memorial there, and it's really cool. Just the artist that did it, I can't fucking describe it. I can see it in my head, but I can't describe it. And yeah, just a fucking sad part of history.
But if you don't face it, if you don't acknowledge it, you're bound to repeat it.
Yeah.
If you see it for what it is, as a horrible, awful thing,
well, isn't
disgusting,
there some shit like that going on in China now with the what the hell, the Wee people or something?
I don't know. I know when we were in Saipan. Did anybody know we were in Saipan?
No, I didn't know that.
When we were in Saipan, we went to the one. It was the last Japanese stronghold, and there were these tarps on the ground.
Oh yeah,
banners.
That's right, yeah.
And basically, I can't read Chinese, but from the pictures, it was talking about, and there was a lot of Chinese tourists there. And since they can't speak out in China, they were doing it there. They lay them on the ground, and they were talking about how people are being stolen or incarcerated for their body parts, for their organs.
Harvesting their organs on the black market.
And it was calling out that travesty of humanity. But it happens in China. Now we're going to be banned in China forever.
Damn.
And all our Chinese listeners, I'm sorry. So we took on slave rebellion and take it to heart. Think about it. Look it up. Research it yourself. And take on the world. Hold on. Stop.
Welcome back to the Shit Show 2.0.
Okay, Boomer.
Damn millennials. Wow.
Did not know that.
Even flirters who are obviously mentally ill.
You want to be my wife? Oh, this is going to go downhill real quick.